Hold on, I'm trying to. I'm trying to see how. Oh, invite right there. Copy. All right, man. We finna get it started. We finna get it started. Just waiting on the guest. We're gonna be talking about Dr. Umar, his comments, his recent comments about hip hop and the black community. Um, we're gonna be talking about, if that is true or false. So I'm just waiting on a guest right now, and we're gonna get it cracking once he does come on. So that's what we're waiting for. Uh, yeah. So I'm just waiting for the homie right now to come on. Once he comes on, we're gonna be on. I'm just waiting right now on a homie for him to come up in here. I'm trying to see where. Let's see here. Private chat, comments, manage. Hold on, y'all. All right, without further ado, I'm going to get the show started. It's Kali the One. As you guys already know, if you are watching this, please like, subscribe. Thank you for the love, for the hate. It's all support. Also, please, if you are watching this, like and subscribe to the Viral Way podcast. I am a co-host on there. You know what I mean? Tap in with us. We got merch coming soon. Please help support, keep the movement moving. Without further ado, I do want to get into some topics, or a topic today that went viral recently on social media. And it was about Dr. Umar. He was on a podcast where he was talking about, his usual topics that he does talk about. However, he ended up, or the topic ended up of what has hip hop done for the Black community came up. And so one of the things that he said was, within the last 50 years, hip hop really hasn't done much for us. It's owned by Jewish people. And for that, he felt like it's done more harm than good. So I'm going to play a clip right now. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys exactly what he said. And then we can break it down from there.
What has been the sum benefit to Black people of 50 years of hip hop?
Outside of economic advancement?
What was the economic advancement of Black America because of hip hop?
It's their biggest export. Everybody in the Black community.
I'm gonna ask you again.
Yes, sir.
How did Black America benefit from 50 years of hip hop? And don't give me individual rappers. That's called tokenism and bourgeoisie.
I won't give you tokenism. I will give you
benefited as a people from hip hop.
Advancements in fashion.
How? Fashion. That's
no,
nothing.
I can't let you have that. That one I can't let you have that.
We don't control fashion.
Anyone that's able to make money, any Black person that's able to make a living in an industry.
Bro.
What's up, man? How you doing?
What's good, bro?
Let's see here. How do I do this? Okay, my fault. All right. So I do got a special guest in the building. If you want to introduce yourself, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm Ramel Rex, from Florida. I make music. I do movies, act, all that other kind of stuff. Stream, YouTube, do everything like that. So I just stay in the spaces. My main thing is music, and so I just been kind of transitioning more into the streaming world. It's been kind of going off. Just want to get all the stuff, the craziness that's been going on in my head, get it out there, get it out of my head, and get it out to the people. So, inside of this, come on, start speaking that real, start speaking stuff that sometimes people don't want to say, sometimes people don't really know about, just want to bring that extra level of nuance to the conversation. I feel like be missing. And, a lot of times people just kind of go with, we're going to get into it. Let's go.
Let's get into it. Okay. I like what you're saying, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. And so I was just watching a Dr. Umar video about what he was saying about, what has hip hop done within the last 50 years that has been alive to help the Black community. I'm going to go ahead and restart it. And then after that, we can go ahead and give our takes on how we feel about it.
All right.
What has been the sum benefit to Black people of 50 years of hip hop?
Outside of economic advancement?
What was the economic advancement of Black America because of hip hop?
It's their biggest export. Everybody in the Black community.
I'm gonna ask you again.
Yes, sir.
How did Black America benefit from 50 years of hip hop? And don't give me individual rappers. That's called tokenism and bourgeoisie.
I won't give you tokenism. I will give you
benefited as a people from hip hop.
Advancements in fashion.
How? Fashion. That's
no,
nothing.
I can't let you have that. That one I can't let you have that.
We don't control fashion.
Anyone that's able to make money, any Black person that's able to make a living in an industry.
Bro, how many is that? The labels that
it's way more now.
White people labels.
It's way more now than what was going on.
But that's not a real benefit.
I would disagree.
How does Black America benefiting from fashion? What we talking
Any
about?
advancement in fashion
How
for
do
black
we benefit
people.
from fashion, bro?
So those same companies just came out. What was the company that came out and they're boosting up their prices for bags by like thousands of dollars?
LVMH.
Yeah, that's not beneficial to black people.
Yeah. What?
So
You're missing what I'm saying. If hip hop, when hip hop comes, hip hop is an entire culture. Our fashion, the way we walk, the way
How
we
is
talk.
that a benefit to Black America?
Because now people who didn't have access to jobs in the fashion, black people specifically, who didn't have access to jobs before the explosion of hip hop, 50 years
these
ago.
white companies that make billions of dollars.
Forget the
off
white
of
companies.
our-
I'm talking about black-owned companies
Like
that have come.
who? How many?
Fubu, Karl Kani.
Kanai.
I'm getting out of here.
What?
Who the fuck wearing Fubu and Karl Kani in 2024?
You said in
Come on, man.
you're moving.
Come on.
You're moving the goal. You're moving the goalpost.
Who wearing that?
You're moving the goalpost.
Come on,
You
man.
said in 50 years.
Come on.
You said in 50 years.
You reaching, bro. You reaching.
That's not true though. People
I'm-
That is a reach. What?
You said in 50 years.
50 years.
What has
You said 50
transpired?
years.
This ninja went back to the late 80s.
No.
This is crazy.
No.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
but,
it is.
But it's not as obvious. It's not where it was before. But the advancement that those four men.
Boom, boom, boom.
So 50 years,
I'm
you
bravado.
had on the Fubu jacket and some Karl Kani.
No,
And
listen.
for the billions that hip hop make, I'm supposed to be content with that.
I didn't say be
no.
content. You asked
You
a
asked
question.
which
I
brands.
offered you.
Horrible
Yes.
answer. Give me something, a horrible answer.
Who decides
Horrible
war?
answer.
Who decides war? Literally having a line come out with H&M right now, and a black person owns that line.
Okay. So how you feel about it? Let's get into it. How you feel about that clip?
First thing I want to say about that. First of all, like just listening to the guy, I'm not sure his name, who was going back and forth with Dr. Umar.
Yeah.
Just listening to him, and I think that's one of my problems with like people that have these sort of conversations in general. You know, sometimes people have conversations that they're not really prepared for. You know, I think even when you're talking about conversations with hip hop and black culture, there's so many layers of things you need to understand to even be able to even be able to properly contribute to that sort of conversation. For one, I don't even think he was understanding what Dr. Umar was even asking him. You know, like Dr. Umar, and I wrote down just a couple notes because I was just listening to it all. Like Dr. Umar asked him, you know, how did it benefit? And one of the things he says is fashion. And like once he said that, it automatically just threw me into the mind state of he doesn't understand. You know what I'm saying? Like this conversation is above him. And so I was like, okay, Dr. Umar is looking at it like as a collective. What did hip hop music? What did it garner for black people as a collective? As if like, you know, let's just say something like, I'm going a little back in history here. Something like the Montgomery bus boycotts. What that did for black people as a whole, as a collective. If you want to say something like how did hip hop benefit black people, it benefited us on a material way and on a surface level way. Hip hop did not do anything to change people's perception of what they already thought black people were. And then in some ways, it actually started to become even a more negative perception of what black people were. And I think that's one of the things. And so the guy saying, okay, yeah, it benefited us in the ways of fashion, you know, and the things like that. But it's kind of like, so some black people can have jobs, you know? So Virgil Abloh can be one of the biggest fashion designers in the world, while you still got so many struggling black designers who can't even get, you know, a meeting in any of those rooms. So, you know, it just kind of made me feel like that one guy, he's just not even ready for the conversation. And I'll let you go ahead and go for a little second for, you know, I have another back and forth, but what do you think?
I think what they said, I actually agree with what you said about how I don't think that they were prepared to have that conversation. You know, I'm looking at hip hop like I would look at the medical field or banking or, you know, food service. So I'm looking at it and comparing it to institutions. And when we're speaking about, you know, hip hop as an institution, what has it really done for Black America? Not much. it's given a few people some generational wealth, and those people, to a certain degree, depending on who they are, they have also, done things within the community. But for an overall perspective, I think it's not the sole problem in the black community, but it's the icing on the cake in the black community, in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is because we already had drugs, we already had violence, we already had misogyny, we already had bad spending habits, right? We already had all these things, emotional, physical trauma. And what rap did was take those things in the inner workings of our city and put it on blast for everybody to see. And so that's why I'm saying it's the icing on the cake, because it took what was from within the community that people knew, obviously, because it was on the news and things of that nature, and it really forecasted it to the world. And I think that furthered the negative imagery of what we look like as a people. And then also, when you think about back in the day with the Black Panthers, Nation of Islam, when they were really, really strong, those were the leaders. Those were the people that kids were looking up to. And once you took rap and made it, made people be able to make millions and billions off of it, that almost makes people have this, if you can't beat them, join them type of mentality, where it's like, well, shit, I'm in the hood every day. I want to do right, but if I can make money off of what's going on in my hood right now, whether it be good or bad, I'm going to just go ahead and just try to make money off of this instead of making money off of something else. So while it's only giving really not that much money back to the community, it's influenced more kids to possibly go this certain route where maybe, 50, 60 years ago with the Nation of Islam, Panthers, and things of that nature, kids were saying, okay, I want to go this route. So I feel like it's definitely aided in the destruction of Black people, and it's the icing on the cake for it.
Yeah, and that's another thing I wanted to point out, like with hip hop, with the genre in general, especially like when you think about how it started out, it kind of seemed like, I just want to make it like a comparison, like country music, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I know so much about country music. So I'm just guesstimating, improvising. It seems like country music started out, and it has always been about what it's been about. Country music, hip hop started out as like that. It's way to express yourself for the inner city kids and stuff. But then it seemed like it immediately went to the gangster route, to the point to where all automatically, and even if this is not like even a lot of artists, but it's still some of the most famous artists, automatically when you hear hip hop, when you hear rap, it's always a certain image that's already put out towards people. When you hear hip hop, like even when sometimes you see interviews or stuff like with people of different countries, when they mention hip hop and rap, like they just get this this character of gangsterism around them, fold their arms up, put their hand, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that it immediately went into something else that really just caused a detriment in our community. Like some of the worst, when we really talk about it, what took the Black community to really go from here to here was not a very long time. Like when you think about it, it was let's say a couple decades from being as strong as we were in the 60s to, you think about the crack epidemic of the 80s and all the violence and everything of the 90s and all the people that went in jail. That's 2 decades. That's a 20-year time span that it took for Black people to be 400 years resilient through slavery, families sticking together, like going through all of that to getting our freedom and still being in perpetual bondage through, sharecropping systems and things of that nature. And then now you get hip hop, and then now we finally get that freedom. Then we have this amazing civil rights moment to where that completely changes the landscape. You get the whole world on our side because it's broadcast and everybody can see. And then in that same breath, 20 years later, the crack epidemic, and then you get the gangster music and all the violence that fueled. So it's like when you look at hip hop, it's a little bit different today, but it still has those ugly roots in a way, still attached to it. Whatever it changes into, it always becomes that. Like it doesn't really matter how something started, in a way, like what it changes into and what it becomes. I feel like that is what it becomes known for. Who's really going to remember those 5 to 10 years of, or however many years of, hippity hop until we get to the gangster, shoot your mama, F the police? Not saying that those songs weren't you know, those revolutionary songs that really showed the struggle. But then when you got to black men killing black men, like that has been the main narrative of hip hop, to where now, and even artists like myself who don't really go down that route, you find it harder to do than to talking about killing your fellow black man and how that's promoted. So, you know, that's another thing.
I agree. You know, and I thought what you said about how it really only took so many decades for us to go from where we were to where we are now. And I think a lot of people don't want to, you know, especially within our culture, don't want to give the accountability or you know what I mean, put accountability on us for that. Because when you look at the emergence of gangster rap, you know, even right before that, you had Queen Latifah, you had KRS-One, you had Flavor Flav, and you know, Public Enemy. You had people who were kind of at a higher consciousness, and then you do get the emergence of gangster rap with NWA, and even then, when you had Pac, right? Like I always say that Pac was a part of the last Black consciousness movement. It was like him and Khalid Muhammad, and you had Sounds of Blackness and all these different types of movements going on in the early '90s, Million Man March. That ultimately, you know, I feel like with the death of Pac and Big, kind of really you saw the demise of that within rap completely, in my opinion. And I always tell people that I think that's when it took a turn for the worse, because that, in my opinion, made Pac and Big martyrs, and it made people want to go out in that fashion and up the ante, you know, as much as they could. And so I think that's where we start to take that turn in gangster rap and in the community.
Yeah, and that's another thing you just pointed out. That's what it has became. Like hip hop almost has become that genre of martyrdom, you know. And it's like when you think about some of the most famous martyrs in the world, you know, it's losing me right now, but it's a lot of people, whether they died, whether they, you know, were, you know, struggle for freedom all their entire life to be able to get something. Think about the most famous people in the world, and then you think about the genre of hip hop, and then you also think about what it means to the Black community sometimes. And you think about our martyrs, some of our biggest martyrs. Yes, they're also civil rights figures, but it's like we hold these hip hop artists. It's this level of martyrdom, and it's kind of like crazy. Like I never understood that. Like some of these guys who claim to be cold-blooded killers and murderers and stuff like that, and that's all they ever put out. That's all the energy they ever put out. That's all, you know, they've even influenced the youth. And like, you know, luckily I wasn't influenced like that. I didn't, you know, but as I grow older and I have a little brother, you know, who's 15 years old, and it's so funny because I see him, he's raised in the same way as me, you know, 2-parent house. He got it better than I did. He really got it better than I did. Like parents gave him everything. We were all out. He really had it myself. But then when you hear, oh, I'm making music now, little bro, this is how I talk to my friends. It's always this shoot the op, you know, F or B and everything like that. And it's just like, it's this music that's influenced you. It's like you never lived that life, but that's what you want to rap about. That's what you want to portray. That's the image you really want to put out. And one of the things that made it so funny to me, and I just want to pivot, I'm not trying to get off track, just made it so funny to me is he had these photos. He had this photo, like he was like looking down, trying to look all gangster and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And then when I finally see the behind the scenes of these photos, like, bro, your mom takes these photos. So, you know, it's kind of like it influences a generation in such a profound and strong way, to where you have kids who don't live that lifestyle, that will just due to the music and hearing those frequencies or whatever will completely change and just want to commit murder. You know, some of the most egregious things you can think of just based on the music. And, you know, it's crazy.
No, facts. And I think that, you know, again, to go back to my point about how it was making kids, you know, have that if I can't beat them, join them mentality, is kind of what you spoke to right there, where people are seeing that as profitable, seeing that you get the praise and the girls and this and that for it. So why not, you know, even act like that, to where you see it trickling down into, you know, suburban areas and other areas that maybe aren't as crime ridden as other areas. And so you see people wanting to take this path to success because that's what they've seen be successful, even though we have doctors and lawyers and people that are in political office and truck drivers and all these different things, right, that are noble, hardworking, you know, jobs that make good money, but it's not praised enough in our community. And I was saying this on our show a couple of days ago that, we grow up and I feel like the kid in the front of the class who answers the questions doesn't maybe, in a lot of cases have the most friends, doesn't have the most girls, doesn't have the coolest things. And so compared to the kid in the back of the class who, causes a ruckus, even if that kid might be smart, but he might just be doing that because he's realized he gets a better reaction from doing that. And I compare that to Black culture where it's like, if you do fuck up and you do crazier shit, you're more praised than if you go to straight and narrow, and that's kind of what you see, even the term of square and, not a square, right? It's like, it's not bad to be a square, but, if you listen to hip hop and things of that nature, it might make you believe that it's bad to be one. So we've ridiculed what protects us and we praise what destroys us. So it's a very interesting thing. And I think we need to take more accountability as a culture for, putting the eye on this and saying, hey man, this is fucked up. If we want to continue to raise our young boys and girls the right way and better our culture, we got to kind of stop toeing the line with this shit and either say, hey, this is what we accept and this is good, or, this is bad. We can't be in between the line like you kind of seeing with that podcast, what you see with Joe Budden podcast and other people where they don't really want to say the truth of the matter, which is
right.
If hip hop music was not around, yeah, there might be 200 to 300 or maybe 500 less millionaires that are Black, maybe, but the overall, image of us would be different, and who knows the trajectory, business-wise, economic-wise, health-wise, numbers-wise, we would be if hip hop never came into the picture. So I feel like people aren't taking that part into account as well.
And that's also the thing. It's like, don't sit here and try to claim us as a people, how we're so creative, we're so talented, but you're trying to make it seem like, oh man, but where would we be without hip hop? We created rock and roll.
Yeah.
I was watching the Elvis movie, and I started going back into that, and I seen how he pretty much stole, all his music and everything from Black artists. We created rock and roll. We could do everything. We create our own genres. Black people created R&B. Like, come on, you don't sit here and try to tell me that we can't. We this is the only thing we could do.
Yeah.
And that's not to take away from hip hop, because I love hip hop. You listen to some artists, Earl Sweatshirt, for example. I love the technical ability of the way people put it together, the rhyme schemes, the flow pockets people get into. I love, like, especially when stories are being told, even if sometimes those stories are bad stories of things that happen or everything like that. A sad song, in a way, you can still look at it that same way. They have you have some of the most country songs. You don't know what they're talking about. End up talking about suicide and killing their dog or something like that. But the sadness of it, you can tell sad stories. But see, the thing about some of this gangster music, it's not about telling. This is a glorification of that sad moment. Talking about killing somebody over something so stupid, or as opposed to thinking about how what is this one song? It's a song that's a story, which is not a glorification of the act that happened. What is it? It's Immortal Technique, Dance with the Devil, or I don't know if you ever heard it before.
He talks about, I think he was coming home one night, or he talks about a story about, you talking about they took his mom or something like that up.
Yeah. And like the way, it's a terrible story, it's a terrible thing. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but either way, how you piece it together, you look at it like, okay, he's a terrible person if he took part in this and if he had something to do it and everything. But the way he's telling that story is almost like it's showing what a life of whatever can lead you to, as opposed to showing you the rewards you will get from possibly beating a body, killing some people and killing your ops, and then going to jail and doing the race and then getting rich and getting famous. And like, it's actually crazy how influential it is. It's influential, like on another level. It's worldwide influential. But the thing about it, and that's what makes it look bad on the Black community, other cultures don't take the bad elements from it. They don't take the actually going out. The people in Japan that really love hip hop, they don't take the going out and killing people and shoot somebody over something so stupid because they offended you or something like that. So it makes it look bad on us. Like, what are they grasping that we aren't? What they can lean into the culture, lean into, you know, and grasp things from it, but not take the bad elements from it. It's like we should be able to do the same, but it seems like for some reason we can't. And I'm not sure why that is, and well, I kind of got an idea of why, but you know, go ahead, I got you.
No, yeah, I think it's just a lot of it really comes down to accountability, you know, and we have to protect the people that are trying to be crusaders and call out certain things in the culture. A lot of times we throw stones at the very people who are trying to help us out of these negative situations, and then it's too late. So I think that's something that we really have to do. But just to, you know, get off into that interview or that little clip that we did play, you know, it's crazy that all that they were able to say was fashion, right? And you look at fashion, I take Kanye West for a perfect example. He is a powerhouse at this moment, but I don't know if anybody remembers in 13, maybe 14, something around that time, he was on Sway in the Morning talking about racism in fashion. And when it came to high fashion and cut and sew and how it was harder for him to get better material because of the color of his skin and the fact that he was a rapper, people didn't take him serious. So there's even that problem within fashion. So when you guys say, oh, well, you know, we got fashion from it, how did we when people like Virgil were getting fucked over, people like Kanye were getting fucked over? They were putting them against each other, things of that nature, making it harder for them to get fabric and things of that nature. So it's like, yeah, we did, but then at that point, how many black designers are, you know, or how much has been accessible fashion-wise to black people at that point? So it's an individual thing where, yeah, a couple people, you know, get the fame and the success, but it's hard. And then at that point, it's hard to pass it down because, you know, motherfuckers got 40 family members, 50 family members. So it's like you can't expect them to then go and take all this money maybe and give it away or whatever the case is. And so I think that's where that individualism part comes in. But with the fashion shit, is bullshit because we literally struggled in that as well, and that's kind of been cut off to us as well. And our fashion has been sold anyway, the same way hip hop has been sold, right? I think again after, you know, we had Queen Latifah and people like that, hip hop was sold because people realized that it was going to be profitable and it was going to keep the destruction at an all-time high because they were going to make the very thing that we were trying to get out of our community. They were going to make that very thing the number one thing to be. So, you know, and I don't think that and the reason why I'll say I do fuck with hip hop and why I'm glad it is around, because I don't think that whoever you want to call it, the higher ups, I don't think they intended for everybody to love it the way that they did. And then also now you have little white kids, Mexican kids, all types of different kids growing up, listening to hip hop, having black friends, and to a certain degree, it's made other races less afraid of talking to black people, because you even have now with the streaming era, so you're seeing rappers and, you know, singers and actors that are black just on a day-to-day basis in everyday life. And so it's taking away that, oh, he's a gangster, he's got a gun, he's going to kill me type of thing, where I don't think the higher ups in these corporations intended for that to happen, but it also is starting to break that fear barrier where people are, you know, accepting us more, even though it also has that second detriment to it of people thinking like they might see somebody like me and be like, oh, you're not black, bro. Like you don't do certain things. Because I've had run-ins with people who aren't black trying to tell me I'm not black because I don't necessarily fit the stereotype of what they think a black man would be. So that's also the negative side to everybody growing up a rap as well.
You know, I want to go back and I want to touch on that fashion just one more time, because you said something and it made a lot of sense. One thing, black people, you know, African Americans, we make the culture. We really do. We set the trends as far as fashion goes. Like what's cool pretty much throughout the world stems from black culture into American culture, which we are a part of American culture, out into the world. So you talking about fashion and everything like that, and like you said, we're the big black fashion designers and everything like that. Kanye had to get Yeezy through Adidas. Yeah. And I'm not too into the fashion world, but like, and I go back to Virgil Abloh, he's the most recognizable person I can think of, RIP and everything. But he worked for Louis Vuitton. These are major billion-dollar brands, and I don't care what you say. Don't tell me these guys just had 100% creative control. There is no possible way these guys just had 100% creative control. I know they have a team of people have to approve this stuff and everything like that. You can say it's this person's vision, and I'm sure it is, but I'm sure there's a lot of other steps to that. And we're talking fashion. Black people, we let a lot of fashion brands go down by the wayside because of the way we talked about them. When it got lame to wear FUBU, you know, that was something. It was lame to wear FUBU. It got lame to wear New Balance.
John,
Now,
all that, yeah.
You know, Sean John, like USPA, all of that stuff. We made a mockery, and even though there's one, but all those black brands or those brands that were like very heavily associated with black people that we wore to school or whatever, we started to make a mockery of that to the point to where you didn't want to make because at the end of the day, you think about it, you see somebody wearing FUBUs now, you might make a mockery, but you ain't gonna make a mockery of somebody wearing some Louis Vuittons or some Gucci's or something of that we deem high fashion because they put $1,000 price tag on it or whatever. So it's like we bear some responsibility in that too. You think about black fashion designers, would you really wear their stuff? You know, we barely support people as it is, and then you look at it like, oh man, why you charging $50 for that shirt? Like, just buy the shirt. Like, at the end of the day, if you spent $50 on a shirt, and if it's nice and you like it, don't be trying to hit them down because it's somebody selling the shirt on TikTok or something, or it's a black fashion brand trying to come up. That's how they get up. Then maybe they can drop the prices. But it's like we always at a point to attack our own and transition it into what you were going on with the Queen Latifah. Hip hop, when you really think about it, when you think about the way it was mass marketed, the way it was mass distributed, it has never been controlled by us. Never once. You have black A&Rs, and like you said, there will be a couple hundred less millionaires. You really start to think about it, because once millions of people know you, people tend to think there are more people like you. You really think about all the biggest actors, models, black musicians and stuff like that, as opposed to the population of black people in America. And, you know, we'll just stay in America. In America, it's not that many. It's probably not even 0.1 or 0.2%. So it's like, yeah, those people being famous don't mean anything. We never controlled this genre. The people at hand have always controlled the message that hip hop has really left out. That's why you have those complaints. Oh, why don't blah blah blah? It's like we don't listen to those rappers and everything like that. You don't go to those shows. You don't support those people. We've allowed it to be taken over. We could have been like, hey, we're not listening to this gangsterism and stuff like that. But it became cool. It became, you know, the counterculture to be rebellious against your parents, to listen to the gangster music and stuff like that. So that's another thing.
I agree. I think it's just a lot, you know, when you talk about the labels and things like that, when they're pushing what types of songs go to the #1 charts, what type of videos are played, what's accessible to us, you know, they definitely have a hand in it, you know. But the thing with it is, like, black people, we keep making this type of music, you know, we keep selling ourselves short, making this kind of music, being a certain type of people. And I think that's the biggest problem, is we're willing to, you know, maybe some of the people have a certain type of message, but instead they, you know, go with this message because it's going to make more money and it's going to be more profitable. So I feel like that's our problem, is we're so material focused and materialistic that's what we go for. And that stems all the way back to, you know, how to buy a Negro, where they was kind of telling us in a way that, or how to sell to a Negro was you know, telling pretty much black people, if you really look at it, what we have at that point in time, and what we came into a newfound, you know, source of income, and what's going to make us feel closer to whiteness is material things. At that point, that's the only thing that can, because you can't eat at the same restaurants, right? At this point in time, you can't have sex with their women or their men. You can't go to the same schools. You can't have the same bank. You don't got the same loans. You can't ride on the same part of the bus, whatever the case is. So after all that goes on, we get, you know, desegregated. We're able to have some money. The first thing we think is, if I can drive the same car as them, I can buy the same washer, I can you know what I mean, buy the same suit. Now I can be just like them. So this is where you see black people start to say, you know what, fuck the brands and the moms and pop shops behind us. Let's go fuck with their shit because now we can, and that puts us closer to them. Meanwhile, they're not necessarily spending in the same ways us and have the same habits. They're spending because they like. They're not necessarily spending because of this subconscious thing that they have where that is tied to their what's the word for it? Tied to their worth as a person. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at that and you wind that and you rinse that for years and years and years, and here comes hip hop, it's like, do you expect anybody to have a moral compass and say, okay, this isn't right? You know, when they're making $5 an hour and they can go make now $200,000 or $1 million this year, all that moral shit is going to go out the window. All of that for the culture is going to go out the window. All of that, and so that's what you see so much is because of, like I said, you go all the way back to how to buy a Negro. We are so material focused because ultimately we believe that is the one thing that can keep us on the same level as them, which it could. It could, yeah. But it has to be ours. It can't be, you know what I mean, divvied up by them and then given to us. So
I understand completely. I was actually just doing a live stream about this a little while ago, and that's what I was saying. I was like, I had a whole segment was like protect the culture. That's what I called the segment. Like, we have to really protect the culture, to protect the hip hop culture. Like, it really kind of has been in so many other ways, black culture. And it's like it got to the point, and I seen something on TikTok, and it's just a little offshoot real quick. It's kind of made me seem what you were saying about the sitting at the lunch counters and wanting to be closer and be in that proximity and everything like that. It brought us something that Charleston White had said. I seen on the interview where he had said something like, "Why do we want to see that they lunch counter? They can't even cook." You know what I'm saying? It's like, right. And that made me think about it. And I was having this conversation with my brother. It was like, why at the end of the day, why do you want to go into someone's place that don't want you there, who literally hates that you even exist, to even try to agitate them to go sit at their lunch counter for them to serve you food that they're probably going to do something to spend? Why did we get that validation or whatnot from people? So
people don't look at it, like to me, it's a game of psychology and how, the mind works. It's like when a girl has a boyfriend or that actually leaves her first and she doesn't leave him, she's going to always want that guy. And I know that sounds very base level and maybe very surface level, but if you take that same thing and make an analogy to black and white culture, to me, that's kind of how it is. We were, treated badly by white culture, and therefore we always have this traumatic tie to them where we want to get them back to a point, to a certain degree, like how I feel like it is with the boyfriend and the girlfriend. If that dude leaves, she's going to always feel like, man, that was the one that got away. And so I think kind of comparing it to our culture, it's the same thing. We will, or we want to do whatever it takes to get up next to them because of how things were, instead of just saying, you know what, we should be closed off from anybody who was trying to keep those parts of the, whiteness or whatever it is alive. Instead, we say, no, we want to, try to join in.
And that's the thing. Sometimes as black people, especially when I see some of these artists, and that's why you look at it and you really go and you see the type of people that they get. And it's like, when you really think about it, they never really get anybody that's smart. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's never really you got a few smart people. You do have a few smart, but they're never the biggest people. Like some of the biggest artists and the biggest people they push out, they never really have anything to say besides let's just get this money and things of that. So it's really, and you see the way that the black community is going. That's one thing I realized, we have the issues that are plaguing the community right now are so great and grand that they giving us these peanuts and circus by throwing these rappers out and saying, hey, y'all got the next biggest rapper, while our community is getting crushed by so many other issues. And I'm not even going to go into that because that's not what this podcast is about. That's not what this stream is about. But, when you start to think about it, it's been seeming like more and more of a cover up, especially when you see how and I'm gonna go, especially when you see like even on both sides of the aisles with the politicians and everything like that. And it's just kind of crazy because I've been looking at it, it's like black people, we really need to get something. Like we are a major part of what built this country, what holds this country together. It's our economic spending alone is like what, $1 trillion.
Trillions, yeah.
And then I see this thing to where it says a black dollar only stays in a black community for such and such long and things like that before it goes out. And I thought about that, and I go to some of these stores, and you think about how like the Indians have taken over the hotel market. Black people, what market do we have? Like what, you know how they have the convenience stores, white people might have this. Like when you think about, I'm about to call this electrical engineering company, you automatically thinking it's gonna be a white owned company, you know?
And that's the thing about what you just said is what we have is entertainment, sports, and music. But the thing is, again, it's only like there's a million plumbing companies, right? So compared to how many people are in the NBA? 200 people, 500, 400 people. So it's like what you're saying is true. Like what our industries are sports, entertainment, and music, but still that's only 1,000 people, 1,000 black people. Where it's like you got 7,000 or 20,000 plumbing companies, and maybe 4,000 of them is white. It's like that's how many, you know what I mean? People that are white have a plumbing company or have a part of an industry. Whereas in, people look at it like, oh yeah, black people, we have the sports and we have the entertainment, music on lock, but that's such a small majority, and that's the trick to me of it, right? Is that it's on such a big scale, so it makes people feel like this is a common thing when in reality it's not. And so I think people, again, waste time, and I don't want to say waste time, but they shoot for things within our community and praise things within our community that we should maybe take a second look at, or look this way and look at, schooling, look at trade schools, look at being an entrepreneur, investor, etc. There's so many different things to go about, but we have been told that those three industries are the only industries for us. When you really look at it, there's only 1,000 people out of 1 million something black people that are within the industry. So It's not necessarily sound.
Yeah. And I think about it as a kid who I like grew up with my dad. My dad's business owner. He owns HVAC business down in Florida. So I was able to grow up being able to get that, that work experience, see him going to work every day, coming home every day, going on with jobs and everything like that, and seeing a bigger picture, seeing how that his life, his business and everything funded and whatever, our lifestyle as a family and everything like that. And I see that a lot of people don't have that. So, but that gave me skills. So as soon as I started working, I was already able to pretty much work and do whatever I needed to do just based on that. And I see a lot of people don't have that. And you think about how they took out all of the trades and stuff and like that and out of school. And I was really just thinking about that for a second. I was like, man, to be HVAC certified or plumber certified, that's why this education system is so fucked up. They really, we don't really understand the way it is, that they really get us out here to be a wage slave, and it's messed up. And I look back at my parents' generation, because like my parents were born in the 70s, and I was thinking about that. I think about, man, all black people were really just kind of coming out of Jim Crow slavery, like really just trying to come out of that stuff, and then they had those batch of kids that was born in the 70s that experienced all the craziness of the 80s and the 90s and stuff like that. And I was like, you see some girls in school like that. You see a girl named Shaniqua or something like really crazy or something like that. He's like, who named these kids? It's the 70s baby. It's our parents' generation. I feel like our parents' generation lacked a lot to give us because they didn't have a lot to get from their parents' generation because of what they went through. And I think that we really have and has to recognize that. Like people, I'm 29, so like people my age and around this age group, like we really have to recognize that and really like, hey, we really need to make a change. We can't leave it up to them anymore. Like we really can't. People that are 55, 60 years old, we can't leave it up to them to go out and make those changes in the political arena, in the educational arena, and like all the other facets of life. We can't leave it up to them. Like their time is passing away. They are so set or anything like that. It won't matter. Which maybe bring back to, as long as they kind of keep us busy and focus on so many other stuff, we're gonna stay in that same position. And which I was living in Philly last year, and I kind of had a love-hate relationship with it. But once I left, it kind of made me think about something. Philly has so many problems politically with crime and violence and stuff like that. And I would go to these events, these rooftop bar events sponsored by tequila and all these sort of artsy fartsy events, hanging out with all these sort of people and everything like that. But I'm like, no, this group, this crowd right here that's in this, these are the people that we need to be the ones out at the city council meetings, the ones that's running for office and things like that, is actually trying to change stuff. Like we are the ones that have the wherewithal and the capability to do it. But we get that sponsorship from tequila to come on up to the rooftop bar and hang out and listen to some hip hop, then we all good. We just forget about everything in life. And I think that's one of the other major problems, like hip hop and that sort of culture has really just made us forget about some of the more important aspects of life, because man, we got so much more living and doing. This world is changing on a daily basis, and people are coming up, especially Black people. We are being overtaken by a huge stretch. And like, what is going to be our legacy? We came out of slavery. We had a good time to get our civil rights, and then we just went downhill after that. Like, what's our legacy? Slaves, a good 15, 20 years, and then, we can't be trying to rely on this old ancient Egyptian way back then. No, we need to really create a new legacy in America after slavery and show what we have done and what we have become.
I agree. I am about to wrap this up, but before I do, man, I want you in 60 seconds to explain why you think hip hop has either done more harm or more good to the Black community.
I think overall, I'm going to say hip hop has done more harm to the Black community, simply because of what it became to represent, what it started from, and what it looks like now, and what it looks like it's going to continue to be, what it looks like simply because of how people have funded it, how people have exploited it through the community, how deeply it's become permeated and rooted in the community, all the negative aspects of it through the world and everything like that. So that's why I think it's negative. It has become a more negative impact than it ever could have had a positive impact on our community. But
I agree. Like, I want to close it out with saying, I think, again, hip hop is not the source of all the problems in the Black community, but it definitely contributes to all the problems that we have, including hyper focus on materialism, misogyny, drug usage, violence, self-hate, all of these things. The list can go on. I think hip hop definitely does take some of the worst images that we've had in our community before hip hop and has made them likable due to the profitability of it. So I think that Black men, Black women need to start teaching their kids other ways to go. And not only that, but also we need to start condemning the things that go on in hip hop if we want it to change and get better.
Facts.
Well, thank you, bro, again for coming out. I really appreciate it. We can definitely link up again. I'll send you this whole stream so you'll have it as well if you want to post it, do whatever you want to do with it. Yeah, man, you got any final words? Tell them where to find you.
No. Good stream, man. Shoot, we've been talking for about an hour, so I was like, we were really just kind of getting into it. Look, I really look forward. I like how we can kind of bounce off each other, you know what I'm saying, with good points back and forth. So that's what I'm saying. We need to have people that can have those intellectual conversations that are on the same level. No, not be up here and your level is right here. We need to be able to meet each other. So I felt great being able to meet you at our same intellectual levels and everything like that. So yeah, man, looking forward to having more discussions about more stuff, and yeah, we'll go from there.
All right, man, y'all heard him. Again, if you guys are watching this, please like, subscribe. Thank you for the love, for the hate. It's all support. Y'all have a good night.
Appreciate it.